After China's sixth-generation fighter jet made its debut, the United States could no longer hold back and finally joined the high-tech competition club. The scene of the United States and the Soviet Union competing with each other in the past is now being repeated. However, this time, the United States' opponent is much more powerful than the one it faced last time. And compared with its strength in those days, the United States' current strength has declined significantly. But there is no other way. China is developing too rapidly. Even if the United States doesn't want to keep up now, it has to force itself to do so. So, in this new round of competition, does the United States have a chance to catch up with China's pace? The sixth-generation fighter jet that Trump placed high hopes on is officially named the F47. This fighter jet will be manufactured by Boeing, and it is planned to form a fleet during Trump's term in office. To be honest, when I saw this news, I believe that all countries standing on the opposite side of the United States are very happy about it. This is Boeing we're talking about. Those two astronauts hanging in the sky probably have broken Disney records, and that's Boeing's masterpiece. Of course, the United States and its allies must also be very excited. Why do I say so? For Trump, this will be another major victory under his leadership. For the American people, this means that the United States will continue to consolidate its status as the world's top military power. For the U.S. military-industrial complex, here comes another opportunity to make money. For the allies of the United States, they will soon be able to buy advanced sixth-generation fighter jets, although they will be the cut-down versions. However, from a third-party perspective, I think the United States is really hopeless this time. When Trump officially decided to develop a new generation of fighter jets and entrusted this task to Boeing, it meant that they would fall into a bottomless pit of burning money. Many people may not know that as early as before 2010, the U.S. Navy had already proposed the concept of a sixth-generation fighter jet. In the following years, a lot of news about it came out one after another, including various concept aircraft pictures. The U.S. military even claimed that it conducted a secret first flight in 2020. The first flight that Trump said happened 5 years ago should refer to this one. However, in July 2024, the U.S. military terminated the sixth-generation fighter jet project. Unexpectedly for the Americans, China took the lead in launching sixth-generation fighter jets in the same year, and even developed 2 models at once. This shocked and dealt a heavy blow to them. That's why there was the incident of the Pentagon working overtime all night to hold meetings and study countermeasures. Trump's finalized sixth-generation fighter jet plan should have been the solution finally worked out through consultations among all parties after that meeting. From the photos shown in Trump's speech this time and a series of information he revealed, we can draw a conclusion: the next-generation fighter jet of the U.S. military is likely to encounter difficulties in its development. There are 3 reasons for this. The first is Boeing's problem, and Boeing's problem is the most serious. The second is the lack of money. Although the United States doesn't have the so-called problem of corruption, everyone knows very well where the money has gone. The third is the lack of technology, mainly the lack of a supply chain for manufacturing the new generation of fighter jets and a wind tunnel for simulating high-altitude and high-speed environments. Why do I say that Boeing's problem is the most serious? First of all, the sixth-generation fighter jet is developed on the basis of the fifth-generation fighter jet, for example, with stronger stealth capabilities, information perception, and integrated combat capabilities. The first 2 fifth-generation fighter jets of the U.S. military, the F-22 and the F-35, were all built by Lockheed Martin. Boeing was only responsible for providing a small number of components for the F-22. Although it has the experience of building early warning aircraft and the F-18 fighter jet, the difference between the sixth-generation fighter jet and the fourth-generation fighter jet is very significant. Does Boeing have the ability to bridge this technological gap? Secondly, Boeing has been deeply involved in various scandals and controversies in recent years. Boeing aircraft have even been called the makers of air disasters. This shows that there are many problems in its civilian technology projects, including safety hazards caused by aircraft design defects, quality problems caused by the lack of supervision in the manufacturing process, and chaotic management of Boeing's internal staff, and so on. These objectively existing facts will inevitably affect the design and manufacturing of the sixth-generation fighter jet. So why did Trump finally choose Boeing to build the new fighter jet? I think there are many reasons for this. First of all, although Lockheed Martin has launched 2 very successful fighter jets, the F-22 and the F-35, its cooperation with the U.S. Department of Defense has not been pleasant. Especially for the F-35 project, this fighter jet can be said to be a successful business case, but it is not an excellent fighter jet. Its manufacturing and maintenance costs are on the high side, and its comprehensive performance cannot fully meet the requirements of the military. Moreover, the readiness rate of the F-35 is very low. The design target is 80%, but it has actually only reached 60%. This is simply a disaster for the military. The two sides have also had many conflicts due to these problems. So when the military chooses a supplier for the new fighter jet, these factors will definitely be taken into key consideration. Secondly, Boeing is currently in a difficult situation and its days are getting more and more difficult. It is currently in a difficult situation and its days are getting more and more difficult. It is currently in urgent need of a major project to improve its brand image. As the leading brand in the U.S. aviation industry, the United States naturally doesn't want to see Boeing decline. Giving them the order for the new fighter jet, although it will take a great risk, can at least preserve the pillar of the U.S. manufacturing industry. If Boeing can seize this opportunity and make the F-47 project a great success, it is not impossible for it to return to its former glory. But does Boeing still have the ability to achieve this now? The issue of money is also an obstacle to the development of the U.S. military industry. From the proposal of the concept of the new generation of fighter jets of the U.S. military, to the technical verification and prototype development, and then to the project deepening, the whole process has gone through 14 years. Until now, it still remains on the drawing board, PPT. In 2024, the project was even directly terminated. The fundamental reason is the lack of money. According to the military's initial index requirements, the estimated unit price of the NGA will exceed $300 million. Such a sky-high price cannot be accepted even by the United States, which has always been wealthy. In addition, budget overruns are also very common in the U.S. military industry system. Many existing major projects have had to be delivered late due to budget overruns, and naturally, corrupt personnel have played a role in this. According to the current plan, the engineering development contract for the F-47 is worth $20 billion. It is estimated that the total value of the whole project will reach hundreds of billions of dollars. Where will this money come from? Now the United States is burdened with debts, and there is also a risk of economic recession. The financial oligarchs will definitely not use their own money to rescue the country, and it is simply impossible to allocate more funds for the research and development of new equipment. If they had the money, their sixth-generation fighter jet would have been developed long ago, and they wouldn't have ended up in such a situation. So the United States can only set its sights on the common people. This is why Trump is laying off staff to streamline the government and reduce expenses. But how much money can this save? This logic is like a rich person instilling the idea of saving water in a poor person, while they themselves are extremely wasteful. Now, if the sixth-generation fighter jet project is launched, either the military budget needs to be increased, or funds need to be diverted from other projects. There is no other better option. In fact, when the project was suspended last year, the United States planned to continue to muddle along, because it really didn't have the money. Who would have thought that at the end of the year, China directly developed two sixth-generation fighter jets, which immediately made them feel a great deal of pressure. So they had to restart the project. According to U.S. media, in order to save money, the military has planned to make significant modifications to the original NGAT project. The main modification is to change the originally planned heavy fighter jet into a medium fighter jet, so that its cost will reach a level equivalent to that of the F-35. The lacking range and combat capabilities will be compensated by stealth tankers and stealth drones. That is to say, it plans to use 3 aircraft to achieve the capabilities of 1 heavy fighter jet. But will such a combination really be able to compete with China's sixth-generation fighter jet? It should be noted that the characteristics of China's sixth-generation fighter jet are its long range and large bomb load. It can carry ultra-long-range air-to-air missiles and hypersonic weapons, which a light fighter jet simply cannot do. Even if these 3 types of aircraft are combined, they still can't match. If Trump's F-47 is really designed as a medium fighter jet similar to the F-35, it will just be an upgraded version of the 5th-generation fighter jet. What's the point of such a fighter jet? In addition, the United States currently has another major problem that needs to be solved urgently, that is, the supply chain problem. The industrial hollowing out in the United States is already very serious. For a complex project like the 6th-generation fighter jet, the quality and quantity requirements for the spare parts will be even higher, but the existing supply chain in the United States is hardly able to meet these requirements. Even most of the spare parts for the F-35 need to be purchased from abroad, and some of the spare parts even need to be imported from China. Now China has already introduced various restrictive measures, which has led to higher costs for U.S. manufacturers to obtain high-quality spare parts. There are also rare earths and rare metals, which are essential raw materials for cutting-edge weapons. And China has already closed the door to exports. It is worth mentioning that to some extent, the Russia-Ukraine conflict was instigated by the United States in order to obtain the rare earths in Ukraine. For the United States, it may be easy to design a new type of fighter jet, but it may be a bit difficult to mass-produce it. Otherwise, Trump wouldn't have just shown a photo. And Trump's so-called first flight 5 years ago was just a trick to deceive people. In fact, it was just a simulated digital flight test, and no prototype aircraft was actually manufactured. If it was a physical prototype flight test, the United States would have publicized it vigorously and surely taken a lot of videos. Why would it just show a photo instead? What's even more ridiculous is that the concept aircraft photo shown by Trump has canards, which is completely different from the concept aircraft posted by the presidential assistant on social media. This can explain a lot. Even if it is said to be for the sake of confidentiality, it doesn't make sense, because China's new aircraft is already flying in the sky. What's the point of the United States still hiding it? Isn't it better to show it openly? Under such circumstances, there's only one reason for not showing it, that is, there's no physical prototype aircraft at all. From the above information, it is not difficult for us to see that Trump's F47 plan is a project that was hastily launched. Although there is a certain amount of technical accumulation and verification in the early stage, according to Trump's idea, he wants to save money and also have an excellent fighter jet. How can such a thing happen in the United States? In the United States, expensive things are not necessarily good, but good things are definitely expensive. So Trump's sixth-generation fighter jet will inevitably become a bottomless pit for burning money, and the thing finally produced may not even be usable. I, an ordinary person, can see these problems. Don't the top figures in the United States know about these issues? But does the United States, which is now in a period of decline, have any other choices?